Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you an easy and quick way to make bubble letters using a simple tracing method. So you would start with whatever your letter is. Let's say we're working with letter T. So I would draw it in pencil first. When you're doing it on your own, you would want to do everything in pencil. I'm going to use some colored materials just to make it easier to see what I'm doing. So here's my T. And what I'm gonna do with my T is I'm gonna trace around it. And I want to make sure I trace all the way around from beginning to end. So a trick that I use is I make myself a little X. This way I know where I started, kind of like a maze or a race, and I know where to end. So I'm gonna get out a blue marker and I'm gonna trace around my T. Once I get around my T, I'm gonna make sure I make it right back to my X. Once I've done that, I can take my eraser, I'm gonna erase out that X, and I'm going to erase out that original T that I had drawn in the very beginning, that first step. And you see I have a perfect bubble letter. It would work with a lowercase t also. So again, I draw it regular, add my X, take a colored marker, and trace. You want to trace pretty close to the letter. And for a bubble, we want to make it nice and curvy. Okay, you trace a little further away, you're going to have a chubbier letter. Trace closer, and it's going to be skinnier. So sometimes when you're working with a letter and you want to turn it into a bubble letter, it can be a little tough because the letter might have an inside. For example, let's do the letter R. So again, I'm going to write my R out the way I normally would. Okay. The next step is I want to find my starting point and I'm going to make that X. Okay, so I'm going to take a colored material. I'm going to take a purple marker this time, and I'm going to trace around my R. And pretty close to that original. Slow and careful. Back to my X. But there's a problem, because if I go ahead and I erase right now, my R, it doesn't look very good because it's missing that circular piece inside of the R. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw back in this R. I'm going to go back with my purple marker and I need to trace the inside too. So any letter with an inside, I'm going to do that. I'm going to trace the inside as well. Always look to see, do I just trace the outside or the outside and the inside? And then I erase out and I've got my perfect bubble letter. And that's going to work with any letter with an inside, like O, A, B, etc. This tracing method that I showed you can also work for numbers. Just as a side note, same thing, draw it out the way you normally would and use that tracing method I just showed you. So that's how easy it is to make your bubble letters with Mrs. RS.